Maharja. My name's Declan Kearney. I'm the Sinn Féin National Chairperson and MLA for South Antrim. Ta fáilte roh go léir go dtí hala coscuan. If I can commence my remarks briefly by reminding ourselves that this week our island has been overshadowed by the tragedy in Crishlaw, and that's a place that many of us in this room will know very well indeed. Mar sinna chairde seolamid our monarchy the winchid in Crishlaw, agus giamish lucht na maru go raibh suamhneas siari an anamnatha go léir. Thank you all for joining us at tonight's People's Assembly here in the Waterfront. And your presence is more evidence of the growing momentum of the conversation about the future of Ireland. Constitutional change is now fixed on the political horizon. Brexit, electoral realignment, opinion polls, and indeed the most recent census results have all contributed to that prospect. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that Irish unity is inevitable, but the discussion has become dominant in our political discourse. And that's the context within which Sinn Féin holds this People's Assembly this evening. This event and the others to follow stem from the Party Ard Comhairle decision to establish our Commission on the Future of Ireland. It's an ambitious initiative aimed at making a positive contribution to deepen the conversation around constitutional change and Irish unity. Sinn Féin wants to encourage popular grassroots participation in the conversation about our shared future. We want everyone to have their say. Those who advocate Irish unity, those who are undecided, and those who are opposed. A vast amount of academic research and modelling, and new studies and books on all aspects of reunification are being produced. And the Three Arena Conference, organised by Ireland's Future, illustrates the significant nature of what is happening. Never before has such a cross-section of civic and political opinion come together to address Ireland's future. I believe it's unprecedented for 10 of our main political parties on the island and 5 party leaders to engage in that discussion under one roof and agree that we need to begin planning for constitutional change now. That's a hugely important development. It represents common ground, which now needs to be harnessed and built upon, and with common purpose. There is now an irresistible case for the Irish government to establish a Citizens' Assembly on constitutional change. A Citizens' Assembly has a very important role to play, preparing the groundwork in advance of a unity referendum. This is an exciting time for us all. It's filled with opportunity and hope for a better future. And that's why we need to get it right. Achieving a new constitutional national democracy will emerge from a phased political transition. And that is why systematic planning and preparation should begin now. Grassroots communities should be involved at the beginning of this process, not at the end. The People's Assembly's initiative is not a substitute for a Citizens' Assembly, but it can make an important contribution. So these assemblies are about inviting working people and trade unionists, business people, community activists, women, our youth, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, Gaelgory, sports people, academics, representatives from our new communities and others to come together and have their say on our collective future. Our shared challenge must be to create a future which is warm and welcoming for everyone. And that means asking and answering the questions which are being posed about a united Ireland. So, can we protect public services, pensions, and create decent jobs, pay and conditions? Can we create an Irish National Health Service? I believe we can. Can we negotiate and agree new constitutional democratic arrangements and structures which will leave absolutely no one behind? Absolutely, we can. Can we tackle sectarianism and open up a new phase of our peace process based upon reconciliation and healing? And the answer is, we not only can, but we must. Those of us who aspire to a united Ireland need to create the space in this conversation for all of those who disagree or who need reassurance. All ideas and concerns and worries deserve to be validated. Every single voice should be heard. This is the time for planning and to engage with each other. It's a time to sow the seeds of hope and optimism. It's a time for nation building. A time for generosity and reaching out the hand of friendship to each other. Tréisha, in our féidirlin an taithí uair a chrathú le chéile. I believe we possess the collective will, wit and compassion to do that and to start democratically planning for self-determination, constitutional change, reunification and national reconciliation. Tapagi and Jesha Karja, Mawehas Lev Gullier. I would now like to invite our First Minister Designate and Vice President of Sinn Féin, Michelle O'Neill, to the podium.
Gareth Declan, and can I just concur with Declan's comments in relation to the tragic events that unfolded over last weekend in Creeslough in County Donegal, and I'm sure that everybody in the room would have their thoughts very much with those devastated families and a devastated community. So it's a real honour to be here this evening, and a huge thank you to everybody who's helped to put this together, but also a huge thank you to all who've come along to participate in panels, and to all of you for coming along this evening to hear what is being said and to participate in a conversation, because that's ultimately what this is about. And I think given the numbers of people that wanted to come along this evening, coming on the back of what was a very successful event in Dublin a few weeks ago, when the Ireland's Future event, it shows that this is a real live conversation and there's a real interest in the debate. And that's a healthy thing. It's a very healthy space for us to be in, and I hope that that can continue into the weeks, months and years ahead as we go through this period of change, an unstoppable change and a momentum for change which I think is happening as we speak. Back in 2020, I had described this period that we now live in as the decade of opportunity. And tonight's People's Assembly is part of us trying to make the best of that opportunity that we have in front of us. And I am very hopeful, as I said, that we're entering into this era of change and that we're living through changing times. And I think all of that is continuing to slowly but continue to gather pace. I believe that a growing number of people across the society are really starting to reevaluate. They're really starting to think about the present realities and how that's impacting on all of our lives, and also how it's impacting on the very fabric of our society. There's no doubt that people are questioning, what does the future hold? What does that look like? What are the opportunities? What do we have ahead of us? And I think people are also questioning, what could the future look like? What outside of the Union, and what are the opportunities for us in that scenario? I think this Commission on the Future of Ireland is about the future and about examining all of that. Let's have the conversation that Declan says around all the issues that we need to discuss, because I think we have to identify and we have to have the confidence in ourselves to be able to have the conversations around the many complex issues that there will need to be resolved if we're going to find the opportunity that exists for all of us, Protestant, Catholic and Dissenter. We're here to discuss the most important political issue of this, and I believe of previous generations, and that is the right of our people to self-determination. We're discussing the creation of a new Ireland, one which is inclusive, and it must be inclusive, one which is rights-based, one which is democratic, and one that is based on equality. And I think that's the challenge that is facing all of us. You see, our present reality is this. The Tories who are in power in Britain at this moment in time have no mandate here. Yet they're the people that are making fundamental political and policy decisions that are affecting everybody's lives every day, whether that's on mortgages, on pensions, savings, public sector pay, the rates of taxation, and all those decisions are being taken not in our interest, not in the best interest of the people who live here on this island, but purely on the basis of what's in the interest of a rich Tory elite. And for me, that highlights the folly of partition and the inequality of partition. I think that the partition of the island and the denial of our right to govern ourselves has created long scars, a long scarred history that we now have. And I think Brexit was a case in point. Whenever we rejected that, we said we didn't want to leave the EU, but that's now been done to us, and it's exacerbated the folly of partition. And I also believe, sadly, that it's deepened divisions. So this commission, I think, comes at a good time. It comes at a time whenever we have to challenge and discuss all of the things that are important to us. And it has to be a conversation about what's better. What could be better for us? What could we do better together? What could we achieve better together? For me, it's about social justice. It's about a roof over your head. It's about a job and good wages. It's about food on your table. It's about access to healthcare and education. And it's about a sustainable, clean environment. Next year, we're going to mark 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement. And whilst the power sharing and North-South institutions are not functioning tonight as we speak at this time, nonetheless, I don't think anybody could disagree that the transformation of our society over the past 25 years has been hugely significant, hugely positive and transformative. When I think about the 1998 that I grew up in, when you think about that and where we are today in 2022, sure, it's miles apart. I'm sure you all know that yourselves in your own personal experience. So now's the conversation about what does the next 25 years look like? And beyond that 25 years, 50 years and into the future, what does that look like for us as a people? And you know, as we go along this journey of transformation and of change, I don't see any contradiction, none whatsoever, in being part of and working with others in a power sharing administration in Stormont, whilst also at the same time making the case and planning for constitutional change on this island. I believe we can do both. I think that's not beyond the realms of all of us. I've spoke about change, and Declan also spoke about change, and I think that's really important because that is a ripple that's being held, or that's happening right across our society right now. And I do genuinely believe more and more people are enthused by the possibility of change and of building a new Ireland, something better. But I know also that unionist parties have a very different view on all of that. And to this point, they've obviously tactically refused to engage in this conversation, but I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake because this is about our shared future. This is about all of us who live here. This is about every single citizen on this island. This is about our right to govern for ourselves. All of us together, shaping what that looks like is a matter for us all to work together. And I think that there's one thing that's for certain, that the only people that will ever govern in the best interests of the people here is ourselves collectively, from all our different perspectives and political perspectives and differences. Because this is our home place. This is all of our homes, all of us who live here. But I think we have a huge opportunity to make this a home place for everyone, a better home place for everyone. I'm certainly working to build a society that's not about orange and green. That can't be the case. I want to build, for every person who lives on this island, a society that identifies with a rainbow of identities, a society that's about, cherishing our multiculturalism, that embraces our diversity, but even further than that, that celebrates our diversity, because that's such a positive thing for all of us. It enriches all of our lives. And for me, that's what this is about. Better is the word that keeps coming to my mind when we talk about constitutional change. So the Good Friday Agreement itself provides for a referendum through consent, and that referendum is coming. So there is an onus on both governments to now prepare for constitutional change, but there is a particular onus on constitutional duty on the Irish Government to plan and prepare for unity. We have consistently called for the Irish Government to establish a Citizens' Assembly, and I repeat that again tonight. We don't want to bounce anybody into a referendum. We want it to be preceded by inclusive discussions and informed debate. So therefore, a citizen assembly just makes good sense. In anybody's mind, it should just make good sense. The vision of a new Ireland that we offer is one which overcomes past differences, which brings our people together. I want more than just the reunification of the island. I want a unity of the people who live on the island. We want a future which consigns sectarianism to the past, in which all of our citizens, Irish, British, Northern Irish, and none of these, can live together in peace and prosperity. I also believe that it can be done. Even if you don't agree, but even if you disagree with all of what I'm saying, let's talk about it. Let's have the conversation. Let's have that yarn. Because everybody, whatever their political allegiance, they all have a voice, and they also equally have a stake in our journey of transition that we're currently on. And they also have the right to use that voice and to set out their stall, and also to have it listened to, but listened to respectfully. As I said, I believe that today at North and South, there's more people than ever before that want that new Ireland, that are hungry for that new Ireland, and who see in that new Ireland an opportunity for prosperity, an opportunity for better. Because I genuinely believe there's no limit to what we can achieve if we put our minds to it. And we have to be ambitious, not just for ourselves, but for everybody who shares this island. We must bring about an Ireland where not one single citizen is left behind. So tonight's conversation for me is about, it's part of turning that hope, that dream, into a reality. We have it within our grasp to create a peaceful, a united, and a democratic Ireland. And we can't allow those who are opposed to change to try to put the brakes on it, or to put the brakes in recasting of new relationships between Britain and Ireland, or our shared future on the island, as our constitutional future becomes more closer into focus in the time ahead. So tonight, I hope that you really enjoy and you think that it's a worthwhile, given your evening up, to be here and be part of this conversation. You're going to be treated as such great speakers who bring their own perspective and their own view. And I think that, for me, the conversation can't just stop tonight. It has to be something that you take away, good, bad or indifferent, how you feel about it. It's something that you have to take away with you tonight and bring into your families, your friends, your sports club, whatever your interest is in life. Continue to have the conversation, and if you believe in Irish unity, then advocate for Irish unity in whatever it is that you do. And I'll leave you just with this, because this is the thing that strikes me most about where we are at this moment in time. In life, you can't be silent. You can't be silent about the things that really matter. And for me, the better matters, the better future for each and every citizen that shares this island. So have a great evening, folks, and I really hope you enjoy it.
Muchas gracias, Michelle. Agus Asian Aracha, Michelle, what zoom shahin, Corrigi Falcha Anish Rev Banatina Hihanocht, Antalu Eilish Rooney. Please give a very warm welcome to your chair for this evening's proceedings, Professor Eilish Rooney from Ulster University.
Thank you very much, Declan, and for the promotion I just got there. I'm Scholar Emeritus at the Transitional Justice Institute and very happy to be with you. Can I return the warm welcome and multiply it by the welcomes that each of you might give me in return for this evening? So, welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Commission on the Future of Ireland, the Belfast People's Assembly. Here we are. The meeting we have is entitled Have Your Say, and that will be a theme you'll hear repeated throughout the evening. It's your opportunity to have your say, whatever that say is. The running order is in your pack, and you'll see that there are two sessions this evening. The first is entitled The Economy and Communities in the New Ireland. The second, An Ireland for Everyone. In each session, we have 5 invited speakers. You're in for a treat, for thinking, for some challenges, I can't wait to hear the speakers myself. Whenever they speak, it'll be over to you, to the floor, for an open mic session. This is an opportunity for you, for everyone assembled here, to reflect on what you've heard and to give your views. Feel free to raise questions on the panel's presentation, but for the purpose of this part of the session, remember it's your turn to have your say. It's not, if you like, a Q&A back and forward session with the panel. All your comments will be recorded and the Commission will produce a report of the Belfast People's Assembly. And I like to think of this as not only having your say, but having your say heard and making your say matter, because your thoughts and experiences and reflections and questions will be reflected in the report. Although Sinn Féin organised this meeting, I'm here as an independent chairperson. You've heard from the two Sinn Féin speakers, but the party won't be coming back in during the rest of the meeting. It's over to you. If you like, I like to think of it as the party has left the stage and opened the space for you to have your say. It's come to that part of the evening where we have our first session. And I'll remind you, it's on the economy and communities in the New Ireland. We've asked the panel to give brief submissions, and so would ask for good order listening to them, and I'll come back to you with the open mic session whenever they're finished. So can I introduce and ask the panel to come to sit before you. Seamus McGuinness is a research professor in the Economic Social Research Institute. Come on ahead, Seamus. Ruth Tyon. Ruth worked for almost 20 years on cross-border issues as both practitioner and researcher. Now retired, she continues to engage with these issues in a voluntary capacity. Glyn Roberts is Chief Executive of Retail NI. Anya Hargey is Chairperson of the Markets Development Association. David Gavigan is a businessman who has spent his working life involved in finance and real estate, straddling both the public and private sectors. Seamus, can I invite you to start? Thank you.
Thank you, Elish. So there are a number of key questions that are central to the debate on reunification that research has attempted to address. Firstly, how does the performance of the North's economy compare to that of the Republic of Ireland? Secondly, what are the potential explanations for the North's poor productivity performance? And thirdly, what are the potential costs of future reunification? With respect to the economy, there is no evidence that the Northern Ireland economy is heavily integrated with either the GB regional economies or the Irish economy. These findings weaken the argument that any change in the constitutional position of the North would have large economic consequences. The evidence also suggests that the economic gains to Northern Ireland from being part of the UK are less than what might have previously been thought. In terms of productivity, output per head was estimated to have been 51% lower in Northern Ireland in 2018 compared to the Republic. With respect to living standards, one reliable measure commonly used to assess living standards is household disposable income. Household disposable income was 12% higher in the Republic compared to the North in 2016. The proportion of individuals at risk of poverty in the North was 14% compared to 9% in the Republic. Finally, a good measure that captures overall differences in general welfare and living standards across countries is life expectancy at birth. In 2018, life expectancy at birth in the Republic of Ireland exceeded that of the North by 1.4 years. So what are the potential explanations for the North's poor productivity performance? This is likely to be driven by a number of factors, including lower educational attainment, lower levels of export orientation, and lower intensity and poor quality foreign direct investment. However, gaps in education and human capital development are probably the most important factor driving relatively lower productivity in the North. Across all ages, education enrolment rates are lower in the North compared to the Republic. Early school leaving in the North is estimated to be over twice that of the Republic. The North also has much lower export intensity compared to the Republic, and foreign direct investment in the North is also less intensive and lower value added. Enhanced FDI flows to the North and export activity are likely to be key policy targets in any scenario of constitutional change. So what are the potential costs of future reunification? Who will bear the economic cost has been a key feature of the debate on constitutional change. Subvention was estimated at 9.2 billion sterling in 2017-2018. However, that figure falls by about 25% when we extract expenditures no longer likely to be incurred post-reunification. Furthermore, some or all of the costs of the North's old age pensions, estimated about 3.2 billion in 2016-2017, could also remain a UK liability. There is a growing consensus amongst researchers that subvention costs are unlikely to represent a substantial barrier to reunification. However, subvention only exists because of the North's low productivity. In the event of any border poll ratifying reunification, a transition period will be necessary to allow for the operational responsibility of the North to transfer to the Republic of Ireland. Planning needs to be focused on policies aimed at improving the North's low productivity during that transition period in order to eliminate any subvention requirements at the end of that period and help maximise the economic benefits of reunification.
For a long time now, I've been concerned that awareness of the Good Friday Agreement, even among political activists, has largely focused on the priorities of Stormont and most recently on the criteria for calling a border poll. But the agreement was designed to address the totality of relationships on these islands, and all three strands, and I urge you to go back and read it after 25 years, need to be prioritised. So far as preparing for a border poll, there's clearly a job of work to be done to convince people this side of the border whose allegiance is presently with the UK. But I also don't think that a positive vote in Southern Ireland can be taken for granted. Many people south of the border will need to be convinced that unification will benefit them against those who argue it will prove a detriment to their prosperity and social cohesion. So, on both sides of the border, we need to put forward all-island solutions to social, environmental and economic issues that will deliver their needs more effectively than a single jurisdictional approach. So, how is that to be done? And what's my main message here? My argument is that unionists or sceptical Irish citizens can best be convinced that an integrated or united Ireland, take your pick, is in their interest by developing a practical cross-border and all-island concepts and projects that deliver on those interests, that provide meaningful opportunities for their input in design and implementation. I am concerned that the agreement has been hollowed out over the years. Much of that, of course, can be blamed on the resistance of both political unionism and the British government. The principle of parity of esteem is enshrined in the agreement. However, respect for those who adhere to the Union and the British identity does not oblige us those of us who aspire to social justice and equality, whatever your constitutional position, to acquiesce to those political unionists who are hostile to the agreement and who have done so much to undermine it. And the DUP and the TUV, let's name it, are far-right parties, with an agenda wrapped in the union flag, but in no way protects the real social and economic interests of most of the people who vote for them. We shouldn't be bamboozled into accommodation with that agenda and those values. For them, in my opinion, parity of esteem does not apply. Our homegrown Brexiteers see the Good Friday Agreement as an obstacle to Brexit. They never supported the agreement and are now using Brexit as a way to get rid of it. They support the bonfire of regulations and the demolition of human rights protections planned by the British Tories. To that end, they are quite prepared to see the impoverishment, I've been stumbling on that for the last day, of their own constituents. And as DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson has said, the loss of 40,000 jobs is acceptable if the end result is a hard border across this island. Likewise, there's no common ground with those, and I think this is important too, those who wrap themselves in the tricolour and peddle their own versions of the chosen people. Since the Good Friday Agreement, I've spent much time promoting practical cross-border cooperation. Over the years, I found that the lack of enthusiasm for cross-border and all-island projects among many Republicans is especially disheartening. And there seems to me to be an idea that cross-border cooperation is all well and good, but a wishy-washy alternative to the demands for a united Ireland. My impression is that this attitude is reflected in the negative responses to the Irish government's Shared Island initiative. This is, as my mother used to say, cutting off your nose to spite your face. I find it shocking sometimes how little is known about the Shared Island initiative among otherwise well-informed nationalists north of the border. And this is an initiative which has €1 billion earmarked for the next, up until 2030, for cross-border projects and initiatives. So finally, assuming we're going to see the restoration of Stormont soon, hopefully, and with it strands 2 and 3 institutions, every possibility to use them to develop all-island integration and build common cause with progressives in Britain and across the island should be maximised both for present-day returns and to lay the foundations for unification whenever that might come.
Thank you. Glenn, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Retail and I is one of Northern Ireland's largest trade bodies with over 2,000 members covering retail, wholesale and suppliers to our sector. We have members in every village, every town and every city in the north. And of course, as we all know, retail is Ireland's biggest sector and employer and is key to the future economic success of this island. And that's why we as an organisation work hand in glove with our counterparts in the Republic, Retail Excellence Ireland, in making sure governments, north and south, hear our members' voices. Our two groups were one of the first to jointly present to the Oireachtas Good Friday Agreement Committee. We presented to the North-South Ministerial Council, and some years ago we produced a joint plan to grow the island's retail sector. Again, all of which was breaking new ground for a Northern Ireland-based business organisation. But this cooperation wasn't in any way to advance a constitutional outcome, but to ensure we advance our shared goal of a prosperous island. We work north-south, east-west to create a better future for us all. But my main message to you tonight is the importance of improving, investing and modernising our island's transport infrastructure. We all know infrastructure is the backbone of economic growth. And I firmly believe that in the untapped potential of rail to contribute towards social and economic development across the island of Ireland, providing faster and more frequent connectivity, connecting communities, as well as helping us to meet our ambitious climate action objectives. Rail is recognised on this island as an important asset to enable a better quality of life and more sustainable travel. The All-Ireland Strategic Review rightly expands upon the commitment under the New Decade New Approach Agreement of a high-speed rail link between Belfast, Dublin and Cork, but also to look at new ways to improve our current rail infrastructure, such as electrification, better connections to the northwest, and the role of rail as an efficient movement of goods. As my good friend Ben Collins writes in his book, and by the way, I'm not on commission to promote the book, you'll hear in the next session, he rightly says that with the right investment and partnership, we could see journey times between Belfast and Dublin reduced from 2 hours to 30 minutes, with free high-speed Wi-Fi, which would open up a much larger workforce to both main cities on this island. Increased commuters to Dublin from Belfast and vice versa would be a win-win for both parts of our island's economy. Such a development would be a game changer for Ireland, turbocharging our economy, improving connectivity and reconnecting communities as we navigate through the uncertainty of post-Brexit. Governments in Dublin, Belfast, London and the European Union need to come together and make this happen. Quite simply, we've talked about this for so long, let's get the spades in the ground. But whatever the long-term future of this part of the island, we cannot ignore where we need to be in the short term. And I realise this Commission is looking very much at the long-term future. But no ifs, no buts. We need the executive back. And for Rachel and I, we're ambitious for this region's future and its huge potential it has to be the very best place in these islands to shop, socialise, locate, start up and scale up a business, to be the gateway of the European Union and to be a truly global-facing region and, of course, an ecosystem of innovation. We want to see a Northern Ireland which is outward-looking, confident, welcoming region, which is something to give to the rest of the world. And if we get this right, surely that would be a good place to build the new future for both parts of our shared home on this island. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Glenn. Anya.
Thank you, Eilish. Hi everybody, so my name's Anya Hargey. I am chairwoman of the Market Development Association, which is the main community organisation within the market. We are made up of a management committee entirely of market residents and 5 staff members who run the day-to-day work of the organisation. So I am a market woman born and raised. Our community is over 200 years old. We are, in fact, one of Belfast's most historic working class districts. You may not know it, but you're actually sitting in the market right now. I played on this land as a child in the early 90s. It was a part of our district back then. My daddy worked in the cattle markets in the late 50s right through to the 60s, as did his daddy and his grandfather before him. Most market people you talk to will tell a similar story of their family ties to this small corner of Belfast. Generations of our people woven deeply into the place you all find yourselves sitting in tonight, and yet you would never ever know it. Decades of regressive social and economic policy led by successive British and Unionist governments ripped all industry and infrastructure out of the area, with decade-long attempts to shrink our district boundaries, encroach on our land, and in turn impoverish our people. In the Good Friday Agreement era, within a 10-year period, over £1.1 billion of investment went into the Laganside area alone. The Waterfront was built, hotels popped up, as did Grade A office space, hosting international corporations like PricewaterhouseCoopers. The area was also renamed Lanyon by the Laganside Corporation after the Tory MP Sir Charles Lanyon, a name our people still refuse to use to this day. And out of the £1.1 billion invested, not a single penny reached my community or its people, while all traces of us and our history were wiped from this land entirely. Military barricades were replaced by economic ones, and a literal wall ring-fencing our entire area emerged, segregating us from the growing wealth and economic opportunities that existed all around us in the late 90s, right through to the present day. In the years since, the prevailing economic ideology that underpinned all of this has made poverty and deprivation in my community endemic. So why am I here at a Unity event speaking about the market? Not only because I love it, but because our story is representative of the story of all working class communities right across Ireland. Our experiences are shared. A lack locked out of the economy, a lack of quality and affordable housing, people trapped in unemployment or low-paid work, welfare systems designed to punish, addiction issues that mask the inherent trauma within our people, educational underachievement, lower life expectancy, and systemic poor health. People trapped in an endless cycle of falling in and out of poverty, and generations of families dispossessed, disrespected, and completely bypassed by the state. Poverty is a form of violence. Peace has to be underpinned by prosperity. But when families are struggling to make ends meet and to survive, as many are today, family and community life, quite literally, becomes chaotic. At some point, the violence of poverty has to erupt. We have seen this played out in our homes and on our streets time and time again, and all of this underpinned by regressive economics and a complete disconnect with those who rule over us from Westminster. All of this is, of course, predicated by the abject failure that is partition. And so, what is the way forward for working class communities and our people? How do we begin to solve the issues that I have just briefly outlined to you all? For me, the answer lies quite clearly in a united Ireland and in a republic. Now, you'll hear some people urging us to wait from all quarters, to delay debates on reunification. Now's quite not the time. Let's focus on bread and butter issues instead, because they're supposedly what really matter. As someone who lives and works in the cold face of poverty and in the outworkings of bad economics, I feel the need to assert strongly here tonight there is not a single equality issue in Ireland that will ever be solved while partition remains intact. Partition is the root cause of our bread and butter issues. It is the driver of inequality and division, and until we root partition out, this rampant inequality will continue to thrive. And I urge strongly anyone who is therefore serious about ending inequality, you need to get serious too about ending partition. Unity presents us with a unique and exciting opportunity to reconstruct our country from the bottom up, to build a new and just economy focused on equal outcomes and not just equal opportunity, where workers' rights are upheld and protected, where work has dignity, where it pays the work, and where our most vulnerable people are protected. And can I just state for the record, because I've been hearing it a lot lately, and in some United Ireland quarters as well, and it really pains me, but a rising tide does not lift all boats. The economic... Thank you. The economic ideology that underpins that mantra is utter nonsense and does nothing but reinforce inequality. A movement that is genuine about a new and united Ireland needs to also be genuine about a new kind of economics for our people, one that is progressive, that works for our people, that spreads wealth, democratises financial power and financial institutions, that is based on citizen ownership and is rooted deeply in the well-being of our people. A united Ireland, I believe, gives us a once-in-a-lifetime unique opportunity to build this. I'll finish by saying that in the building towards unity, the answer also lies in harnessing the power and potential of our working class communities. I think we can all be a bit guilty of viewing our communities for what they lack and in a deficit-orientated manner, and I understand why we do that, because it's important that we articulate need, but in doing so we fall into a trap that we are always viewing our people and our communities in a negative way. I spoke a little earlier about the trauma that lies within our communities, as we know is so often endemic within colonised societies. We know the trauma transcends generations. It's very well evidenced and researched at this point. But what we also forget is that the spirit transcends also, as does resilience, ingenuity, solidarity. So too does pride and strength, creativity and connection, knowledge, power and tradition. They all transcend generations. All of the things that are required in the building of a new Ireland, all of the things that our working class communities happen to have in abundance. In the market, we are tapping into all of these skills and potential as we attempt to model how we, as a working class Irish community, can take back control of our own destiny and kind of, in many ways, carry out our own very little localised reconquest. We're trying to rebuild our community now as a model of what's possible for all working class communities in an Ireland of the future. We are attempting to do this in many ways, through things like community wealth building programmes, trauma-based health interventions, trauma-informed education curriculums for our children, land acquisition, building homes, a return to grassroots activism, using the legal system to challenge land use and ownership across the city, and political education programmes for our people. This is my last point.
I'm sorry.
All of this hopefully...
If you can bring it to a close, please. Thank you very
I've
much.
literally 2 lines left. All this hopefully demonstrates when it comes to unity and the building of a new Ireland, so many of our poorest communities already have the answers. So I say let them lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. So, the topic I've been asked to address is an island of 10 million people. It's probably quite a sort of strange topic, apart from the fact that I was very late to fatherhood, but now 8 children later, I feel I'm doing my best. So anyway, I don't know if any of you can see this, but in 2010, we published a report. When I say we, it was a report commissioned by Intertrade Ireland and the Irish Academy of Engineering. The Irish Academy of Engineering is an all-Ireland body, and it was chaired by a remarkable man called Liam Kennellan, who sadly is very ill in hospital. He was a contemporary of Sir George Quigley, and I suppose I would just like to dedicate tonight, in terms of my talk, to these 2 remarkable people who looked into the future and saw a very bright one. This report was actually launched by Martin McGuinness on the steps of Stormont, and it was a really significant statement of confidence in the future of the island. And what it was trying to identify was the future infrastructure needs, which are fundamental to making people's lives better, as Anya was talking about. So one has to look at the micro and the macro. And unfortunately, in Ireland, we fail to look at the macro as well as the micro. And I think there's a real need to do that. Liam Kennellan is not the sort of man who gives up. Obviously, some people have read the report. There's very few copies of that left. So we produced a second report just to make the point even more tangibly, which was on the importance of the Eastern Corridor of Ireland and the connectivity dedicated to the work, as I referred to earlier, of Sir George Quigley. And that was looking specifically at the importance of being globally competitive. And I'll come back to the importance of global competitiveness, because without being globally competitive, we will not be able to produce the jobs and the welfare and the needs of the people of the whole of the island of Ireland, recognising that we have to be globally competitive. The third report, and I was connected with that happily as well, the third report I just want to refer to briefly was a more significant piece of work in the sense of the 2 business communities that are on this island that work through a thing called the Joint Business Council. We finished a report 3 or 4 years ago looking at the connectivity of the island, and there's the magic figure of 10 million. And there was a guy who runs IBEC called Danny McCoy, who I think spoke down in Dublin the other day. Jerry, I didn't get the invite, by the way. Who spoke the other day on the whole issue of the future island of 10 million people. So where are we today? For those of you who know, the population of the island is 7 million. And God forgive me, since Anya made the comment earlier, also in terms of being fed up about the rising tide, I'm fed up of hearing that the population of the island is at the pre-famine levels. That is utter rubbish. And I think we should make sure that everybody who says that recognises there were at least 8 million people on the island of Ireland in 1840, and possibly 10. The current population of Ireland is 7 million, just under 5 million in the Republic, and around 1.91 according to the census in the north. So that isn't pre-famine levels. It's a long way short of pre-famine levels. Unless anybody misunderstands the consequences of that, Britain's population in 1840 was 17 million, 1-7. So we are significantly behind. Significantly behind. So 10 million is not that ambitious. So where do we go in terms of going from 7 to 10? And what I see and contemplate, without going into too much detail since I know time is short, is that what we will see over the next 30 years is the population of the island will grow to 10. And what I contemplate is that the north, the 6 counties, will grow probably from 2 million to around 3. Just so you can understand the mindset of the system here, the Northern Ireland Statistical Research Agency was brave enough to indicate that the population of Northern Ireland in 2043 would be 1.997 million. God help me. What is wrong with people that they can be so statistically accurate when the Republic of Ireland says that the population of the Republic of Ireland in the next 15 years will probably grow between 1 million and 1.25 million? And we have an agency that thinks it's statistically accurate to say that the population of Northern Ireland will be 1.997 million. Give me a break. In the world that we come from in retail and business, you'd immediately say 2 million. And you'd just be done with it. So 3 million is the first statement. The second statement is, of that population, more than 20%, as is the case now in the Republic of Ireland, will be born outside Ireland. Just a couple of final points in terms of the importance of this. The current demography of Ireland in the north is slightly different, but give or take, it's 4 out of 5 people work. By 2050, we'll be lucky if 2 out of 5 people work. That has huge consequences for the future of Ireland, and hence why it's vitally important we have enough immigration into the future of this island and bring people home. The second and final point is, where will these people live? And I have a view that in order to be globally competitive, you generally have to have a city of 1 million people. The prospects of having cities of 1 million people in Ireland is remote. But here's a starter. There'll be 2 million in Dublin, there'll be 1 million in Belfast, there'll be 500,000 in Cork, and the rest of the principal cities, if we can get on with it, will have 250,000 people with enough people producing kids. My final point is, I gave a long speech on this subject in the McGill Summer School in 2019, if you want to look, but lest you think I've lost the run of myself, there are other countries that are thinking like this, and thinking actually more ambitiously, and I'll cite one, Canada. Canada is looking potentially to triple its population by the end of this century. And one final point you'll find with the Canadians, they make sure that everybody feels welcome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
A public mental health crisis. It's a pandemic, you could say, and it's much less visible than other pandemics with masks and gloves and social distancing, but it's there and it's real. Yeah. And there's a very real human and personal cost to communities and to families and individuals. And on the other side of it as well, there's a cost to the economy. And I hate talking about mental health in terms of bean counting, but it is true that there's lost productivity, people leaving their jobs because of burnout or taking sick days. And there's a very good book called Thrive, written by Richard Layard and David M. Clark, a British economist and psychologist respectively, which looks at this in depth. So what I would recommend is to anyone who's involved in planning and preparation for a new and united Ireland, looking at the mental health dimension, to read that book and to take some ideas from it. But I think, it's important because as we go forward, we have this human and this economic and this social cost, but we have to look at how we build resilience in our communities and how we work more proactive and positive in terms of mental health. And that means changing education curricula, building self-care into schools, for example, so that kids and young people look at mental health and self-care the same way we look at brushing their teeth. We need to build in awareness around stigma and around mental health, and we need to tackle things outside mental health that directly impact it as well, like homelessness, inequality, and poverty. We're talking about the cost of living and insecure jobs and low wages. So I appreciate there's a time limit here, but my takeaway point would just be that when we're going forward, mental health has been treated like a Cinderella service and a Cinderella topic for far too long and a taboo issue. So if we're going to move forward in a new United Ireland, we need to talk about mental health and we need to plan and prepare for that as part of a new Ireland.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Here in the front.
I'm probably a wee bit different from most people today because I'm from the country, out in Tyrone. It's fantastic. I have to say I was absolutely delighted with the previous speakers because they're touching on the real issues that affect us all. My contribution would be that we have available to us very cheap energy at the minute if it's tapped into. Somebody mentioned earlier on about transport. Transport throughout Ireland. Imagine from Donegal going through the different wee towns with trucks and stopping and starting, and it used to be the border, when we could, as you say, have a rail system that would make it simple to Ireland. So I hope that the Citizens' Assembly will actually set out clear, positive plans for that type of development, because it's a no-brainer. In regard to energy, Ireland we have free energy at the minute. I recently visited one company that could save $250,000 on electricity if they got planning to literally be able to supply their business, $250,000 per year.
My goodness.
We have free air, we have free sun. 1.5 acres of solar panels at the minute will produce 50 grand a year return. It's a no-brainer. It's so simple. If the energy and the foresight was put there, but big capital interest prevented at the minute has to do in everything. So this is an opportunity I would hope that Sinn Féin take to ensure that if you're going from Belfast to Dublin, that you don't have to pay a private company to get there. And that's the problem. That's what we need to take on, and we need to plan outside of that, and I believe we have a great future.
Thank you very much. Person at the very back, thank you. And if people on this side of the room, step up, come on. It's your turn next, just at the very back, thank you.
Oh, how you doing? I'm delighted to be here tonight. My name is Phil McTaggart, and I work in the area of mental health, particularly suicide prevention.
Yes.
A new Ireland, a united Ireland for me, as Anya and David there were just talking about, is where all our people prosper. And you know, when I look at the north here and I think about how many people are on antidepressants because of the trauma that we've all suffered throughout the years of the conflict, I believe that a healthcare system is a must in a new Ireland where everybody's treated at the point of the service when they go for it. But a question also that I wanted to ask was one that I hear many times, and I find it sometimes difficult to answer. I seen a survey not that long ago where it said the majority of people in the south were all for a united Ireland. And as David said, that maybe in 30 years from now that maybe only 2 in 4 or 2 in 5 people will be working. When they asked the question, are you prepared to pay for a united Ireland? The majority said no. And I'm just wondering, when I'm talking to people, how do I answer that question? And where does the money come from to pay for that?
Thank you.
I'm a first-year student here at Queen's, and I just wanted to kind of suggest that if we are going to unite Ireland, that we have to make sure that there's opportunities for young people, because at present, graduates are leaving like mad. It's like rats jumping off a sinking ship. So it's great all of us holding hands and getting together and uniting Ireland, but if we get Unite Ireland and then everyone has to leave because there's no jobs here, because the only thing you can go into is consultancy, or if there's no houses for us to live in, what's the point in uniting Ireland? We have to make a new Ireland where I can walk into a job after my degree, where I can actually go out and be able to raise a family and possibly live in a city at some point. I want those opportunities, but at the moment in both North and South, those opportunities don't exist. So if we are going to unite Ireland, there has to be opportunities for young people, and we have to help to stop the brain drain and keep our graduates in.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any women in the room want to have their say? Thank you. And then a person up at the back. Anyone else? 2 people, and then we'll move into the second session. Yes, just up at the back. Thank you. Person in the front here.
Thank you very much. My name is Anna Chandran, and I am from Belfast Asian Women's Academy. I came to Belfast 12 years ago with a lot of aspirations, hope, and inspiration to I came here with a lot of hope and aspiration. I studied law. I'm a graduate with 2.1 upper class degree. Unfortunately, the challenges that I faced was in my career. I can't find myself sitting down in a decision-making position. No matter how hard I work or how good I am, still I can't get promotions. I then decided to, with my challenges, I decided to start up my own women's group. We started off with 6 women, and today we have 170 women in the group from all around the world. These are all professional migrants, and the more I speak to them, the more I find we all have something in common. We cannot sit or we cannot progress in our career. We cannot become decision makers. So now with United Ireland, are we going to be alienated again? Will we be ignored? These are my questions.
Yeah.
Do we get equal opportunity with United Ireland? My son is born here. He calls Belfast his home. Can I teach him, or can I ask him to start dreaming to become a First Minister one day? Thank you.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you. Thank you. Last 2 people this session at the back. Thank you.
Hi, Ciaran McCavanagh. I'm a partner in a firm of chartered accountants in Belfast and Dublin. Just to answer Philip's question about how it would cost, people pay me and people like me, accountants, good money to save them tax. Asking people if they want to pay more taxes, like asking most people, would they want to punch in the face? The answer is no. So that's a loaded question that I don't think we should ask. We should take much substance in. Regarding the finances of the country, there's a myth of 10 billion. The reality is, if the 6 counties had 10 billion surplus put into it each year, we would be the richest part of the Europe. I don't think we are, so that is a myth. Secondly, there's a myth that somehow people in the 6 counties, if you're from Tyrone, somehow you're less of a work ethic than someone from Monaghan, or if you're from Newry, somehow you're lazier than someone from Dundalk. The reality is, and the economic reality is, partition has been an economic failure for 100 years. If we, along with the 26 counties, through reunification, we will be an economic powerhouse, and we can use that wealth to create not just prosperity for the top 10%, but for the whole country. And that means when we talk about a republic, we talk about not just having democratic rights, but we talk about the wealth being put back into our communities, put back into our health service, put back into our education service, and helping all. And that can happen. So this country can be very prosperous. The 26 counties has a very high GNI, has a very high GDP, but we are still driving a car, a Gluostan, with 3 wheels, and one of the wheels, the 4th wheel, is let down. If we provide a country, a united small island like this with 7 million people, hopefully 10 if our comrade down there keeps on populating the way he was, and if we have 10 million people in this country, we are very capable of being a very prosperous country, and with that we can create a new Ireland that everyone can be proud of. So do not believe the myth, the economic myth that has been peddled for years, that somehow Irish people in the 6 counties are economic illiterates and they can't stand on their own feet. We do not need to take lectures from people in London who are now bankrupt. We are capable Irish people who went throughout the world and built the world. Why don't we build our own country? It's more than capable.
Thank you. Thank you. Last comment here from the woman in the very back row. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again to all the speakers and to everyone who's here. I was particularly pleased that that Anya mentioned the impact of colonisation, and I think what one of the speakers, the woman lawyer who spoke earlier, was that racism is something that we have also inherited as part of colonisation. The piece I want to say is I worked in the South. I've worked across the border for many years and still continue to do so. And what I've been struck by is that people in the South, they can see the impact that colonisation has had on the North, but they're not very aware of the impact that colonisation has had on them. And I would put that the power of the Catholic Church and the abuse that came from that is directly a result of colonisation and the authority and power that they were given to an oppressed people. The other piece that and I'm concerned about for the future is that the southern economy, it seems to me, and I'm not an economist, but is very dependent on multinational corporations. And currently, I don't know if people noticed a month ago that TikTok said that they would discontinue employing people in Ireland if they weren't allowed to store their data banks here. And for those who aren't aware, I wasn't aware of what a data bank is, but when things are stored on iCloud, they need a supply of electricity, they need a field, and they also need water. Now, Ireland has water, and they reckon within 30 years, 38% of the grid in the south of Ireland will be going to those data banks that belong to Google, to Facebook, to TikTok. And I feel that Ireland is being used as a dumping ground. Now, if I would be interested in the response of anyone in the room to what they feel. Are we walking into an economy that's going to be dominated by multinational corporations who don't care very much about workers' rights, who don't care very much about the environment, and certainly don't care about sustainability?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, one and all, for your contributions, for your fascinating contributions. I would encourage you and remind you that the Commission remains open for submissions. So anyone who hasn't made a submission and has something to say, please remember that you have an opportunity to have a say. I'd like you to put your hands together to lead out of the room, off these seats, the panel who did such a great job. And I'll call our next panel for the second session, A New Ireland for Everyone. And Greta Kirtley-Tay, can you come forward, please? Professor John Barry. Dr. Rahid Al-Wassan, Mairead Nakonya, Ben Collins. Greta, are you okay to go to the podium? Thank you very much.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you for having me here. So, disabled people have been waiting too long for a change. We don't have the same protections and rights as counterparts in the neighbouring jurisdiction or in England, Scotland or Wales. In fact, the Chief Commissioner of the Equality Commission has stated that lack of progress to close gaps in equality legislation means that we are living in the dark ages and that there is a serious risk of falling way behind to not being a developed country. There is a cost of living emergency escalating before our eyes. Disabled people face impossible choices this winter between breathing and eating due to escalating costs of running life-saving machinery in their home. This is a very dangerous situation, and without action, disabled people will die this winter. Disabled people have been left behind at Stormont, and we have been left behind by Westminster. My friends in our neighbouring jurisdiction have similar stories to tell. We need a new form of governance and decision-making that works for disabled people. The current political crisis is devastating. We needed sustainable institutions months ago to save our lives. Part of tonight is about thinking about what can work. We know that working together works. We know that collaborative partnership bring about the best possible outcome. I have worked on a cross-border project which was co-designed with disabled people. On-site project was developed to improve disabled people's health and well-being. by digitally equipping and upscaling disabled people and reducing social isolation. This project has reached out 2,400 disabled people, reduced social isolation, and established community hubs operating here and in the south of Ireland. I had the opportunity to participate in Encounters program and to think about what we would do in the future of shared Ireland. As disabled people, we agreed we need to work together to deliver real change and rights and equality for all. We have to work together so our Gretas coming to this beautiful island wouldn't be introduced as Lithuanians who came here to find themselves rich husband, or be told that the LA is for people who are more disabled than they are. We can achieve more working together. Thank you.
John? Thank you.
Evening all. Thank you, Chair, for the invitation. I'm your token mouth from the south for this evening. I think I'm in the wrong session. Actually, Chair, I should be in the other one, given what I'm going to say. And perhaps what I'm going to say is going to make me as welcome as a fart in a spacesuit for raising some uncomfortable biological and physical truths about what we should face. If anyone's interested in what I have to say, it's based on a recently published peer-reviewed academic article that I co-authored with my colleague Sinn Féin, whose PhD I'm supervising. And if you're interested, next Wednesday afternoon at Queen's University Belfast, or Ulscoil Belfast, we'll be having a seminar on it. You're more than welcome to come. An understanding of the scale, nature and severity of our planetary crisis must inform our discussion of the political, social and economic dynamics or arguments for and against Irish reunification. Post-growth assessments of the planetary emergency point to overdeveloped and unsustainable capitalist economies geared towards endless growth as the primary cause of our crises. These perspectives are grounded and rooted in ecological economics and the physical sciences. The Earth is an ecosystem fixed in size and finite in its stored energy and mineral deposits. The biocapacity of the planet, the ability of the Earth to provide and regenerate its resources and absorb our pollution, is also fixed. It therefore logically and biophysically follows you cannot grow an economy at a compound rate forever within the fixed parameters of a non-growing larger system. In fact, globally, we are presently in overshoot of a profound planetary emergency that we see in either the sixth great mass extinction event, the rivet popping of our life-supporting systems of the planet, or global heating. Economies that are structurally geared towards this ecocidal level of growth are exploitative, inequitable, and ultimately unsustainable. The maintenance of growth past sustainable levels relies on overwork, environmental exploitation, endless overconsumption and consumerism, or buying crap you don't need to impress people you don't care about, the privatisation of our public services and non-market provisions. In other words, growth, I would put it to you, in overdeveloped societies such as ours, is worsening, not improving, our living standards. Growth for growth's sake, Ms. Truss, is the ideology of the cancer cell. Growth for growth's sake is the ideology of the cancer cell. Gross domestic product, or GDP, that's been mentioned quite a bit already, tells us absolutely nothing about the real social conditions in our society or the well-being of our citizens. It tells us nothing about inequality, the distribution of income and wealth and resources, or indeed poverty and social exclusion. And it tells us nothing about the value of the unpaid work of women, without which our economies and societies would not function. Ask yourself this question: what is it worth to the corporate executive officer, the CEO of any corporation, that they're toilet trained? GDP measured economic growth is simply not measuring what matters. To illustrate, let me share with you the ideal hero of economic growth that informs dominant economic thinking, including the economic analysis of those debating and promoting Irish reunification, and indeed was reflected in some of the remarks of the previous session. So economic growth's ideal economic hero is a chain-smoking, terminally ill cancer patient going through an expensive divorce whose car is totaled in a 20-car pile-up as a result of being distracted by his mobile phone while munching on a fast food hamburger and swigging a can of Guinness. Each part of what I just described, ching-ching, adds to GDP growth. The conclusions for the economic debate surrounding Irish reunification, to my mind, are clear. Arguments for Irish unity based on a scientifically unfounded projections of a post-unification economy based upon island-wide endless economic growth are scientifically illiterate, extremely risky, and lack all credibility. Many prominent contributions influential in the economic debate around reunification adopt this climate and ecologically illiterate stance. Unity by growth, growth by ecocide. Therefore, to ensure a firm scientific footing for the economic debate on reunification, all future contributions must engage with the reality of the planetary crisis and the opportunities that can be realised by embracing a radical post-growth political economy. A post-growth economy should be the guiding principle of the political economy of reunification, and engaging with the policy challenges required to achieve this. How and in what ways can Irish unity deliver greater socio-economic equality, improve real well-being, including mental health of our people, full employment and meaningful work, universal public services, and all within Ireland's fair share of a flourishing natural world and a stable climate? In short, a new Ireland requires a new way of thinking and managing any post-reunification economy. All discussions around reunification need to be based on a completely different model and understanding of political economy. In short, there is no new or indeed old Ireland. There is no unified or partitioned Ireland on a dead planet. So it's time to thank economic growth for what it's done, but it's time now to move on to a new economic model. Let's give it a good Irish wake. Let's move from a focus on more to a focus on better. Thank you.
Dr. Rahid Al-Wassan from the Northern Ireland Council for Racial Equality.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everybody. I came here 32 years ago to study at Queen's, and I love the place. So I decided to make it home. If you look at the latest statistic, latest census, it shows that 6.5% of the people living in the north did not born in UK or Ireland, like myself. We're entitled to vote, and we do vote in every election. And most of the ethnic minorities, most of the people like me, vote tactically. You know, where they live, who they want to be in government or outside the government, or is it Westminster, or it's the assembly election. So we keep moving between parties and candidates and who's the best to help us or help the ethnic minorities' causes. One of the main issues, actually, there are lots of issues for ethnic minorities, communities in the north, whenever it's come to Ireland. You know, the Ireland border poll, it's coming, if we like it or not. It will happen. It's just a matter of, when, not if. And we will be entitled to vote. But what are the main issues for us? Okay, there are lots of issues, of course, like most of you will talk about the NHS. It's really important. People want to have a good health service, and many people mentioned that earlier. We don't want to go to the GP and pay a huge sum of money. We want to have it free of the point of delivery. Also, the tax level and the economy and the business, it's already been covered well before that. But the most important issue for ethnic minorities is the Irish citizenship. We are not entitled to be an Irish citizen. Even after 32 years of living in Belfast, we're not entitled, according to the Irish law. Even I argued personally many times with Irish politicians that people who came to Northern Ireland before Good Friday Agreement, according to the Irish Constitution, should be entitled for Irish citizenship. But at the moment, or for the last while, nobody in the Irish government willing to discuss this issue. So, whenever we are going to have a border poll, do you expect people from ethnic minorities to vote for a country and they will be second-class citizens? We need to address that point before any border poll. If you look at now all the recent polls, you've seen the numbers. You could argue there are 40% of people going to vote for Ireland, 40% will vote for the United Kingdom, but there are 20% undecided people in the middle. And these people going to swing the vote one way or another. So most of the ethnic minorities, at the moment are in undecided position because of these issues. But you know what's scaring me for United Ireland? I'll give you a few examples before I tell you. A few years ago, all of you knows about the flag protest and the vote in Belfast City Council. Who was blamed? The people in the middle. The alliance was blamed for the result. If we are going to have, or when we are going to have United Ireland vote, some people, I hope they will be a minority, will blame ethnic minorities for the result of the vote. And that will increase the hate crime. That's what scared me. And even at the moment, the level of hate crime within North or South, especially in the North, exceeding the sectarian crime. We've seen it even after Brexit. Lots of people, especially from Eastern European, being told, are you still here? You should go back home. We are out of Europe now. So we need to address the hate crime, NHS, economy. We have to have a good plan before we go to the border poll, and specifically the citizenship for the people settled in the north of Ireland. Unfortunately, the Good Friday Agreement, by all no means, this is not to criticize the Good Friday Agreement. It's a great agreement. It's brought peace to Northern Ireland. Only mentioned the people who born in north of Ireland, but did not mention the people who settled in Northern Ireland. So we need to address that point. We need to have a good solution for it before even we call for a border poll. Thank you very much.
Mairead, thank you.
G. Vagini Ursula, agus a Carja Gale, Sakid Dul Shees Tamagiri Mawehas, a goal, Lesson Locked Agrahan, agus le Canary Hen Fain, Dun Curry Lorchlev, and Ihanacht. Lucas Ladini Ella Rome, Tamagiri Foster, Macovron, O'Cree, Aleru, Phobble and Creashley, agus Winshire, Hirconnell, agus Mujalig, Swinyahu, and Chacton Shaw. Is Mission Mairead ní Conula, Rugu agus Togu me in Belfast Jehui, actual megafoil in Mahoney, agus a Gubberon. Is Griwi Changa me, La Fada and La, Griwak ag level of Phobble, agus in Arniel na Gael Sculliachta. Mars all Dave Hui na Milshi hun Shreidja, a Reisht Ella or na Malav in Belfast and Shaw, hun Carta Changa, agus hun Act Gaeliga a Elu, de Luck Lorhan na Gaeliga, and Shaw a Dus Cart na Heron. Vi me hien a lahar ar an la ar noi. Vi me lahar mar wahar atá tógail clinne le Gaelige. Mar a lahar mar friúid a Gaelscoile. Agus a lahar mar gríwi Gaelige I me cantar hien. Vi sé rí-hawaltach dú a bheon ar an la. Vi sé rí-hawaltach a glacin ma atse in sa slua sin agus muid a géri cearta Changa. Caifra bheith cinse nach ngeannaí imilú orin mar géalagóirí a hiiliú, ba cóir go méon na leiche sin hart. Tá me ghlacu ma atse a réist a nacht ar an ard an seo, mar is cinse go bhfuil géalagóirí na tíre seo a digital de ach agus de incur socu sa córa agus muid a pléin na féidirachtaí, na déisina agus na dúchlein a bheith ó roin maidir le héir nua a héntia a bhain semach. Tá sí simplí dúsa. Bheith na dúil go heile is go homlan le go méo Changa na níl agus cearta na níl omlan imlabithe agus omlan fréimhithe, go chorasach in Sidley, agus munracht nua na Heran ar bé. Mar is all doing ar drochar rinnew galore on siar an changa agus ar phobal lortha na Gaeilge, haar na blianti fada an seo ins na sé condi. Curú back ar orbert agus ar as na Gaeilge de ein turas. Glacu le gach seans constaki a cur malach na changa. Leriú jivas ufasach ar an Gaeilge agus ar Gaeilgeí gomininic. Haar le seo a leg go forest marialar aspa fallacythe. Ní ro éon cosint nó céimhnú an sa lé agus níl go dtí an lániu an. Is cinse nach bhfuil na tuairimí dúilteacha seo a lé na Gaeilge troanta den na sé condaí a fach. Go dhéhann tá cás deanta ag golóir daoine go bhfuil seaasú na Gaeilge na sé condaí is fé a bhád siar óna bheith omlan takeáil nó óna bheith sláán. Bhí rialtas na Heran imithuaim héin ó bunaíú an Saoirstát cholug luchtach agus níos massa a réist a freastal ar an Gaeilge na mar a bhí rialtas na Bretagne agus mór cuid de aon tactas followtil. Haar na scóranna de bhlianta tan rialtas ó jaas ciantach as an bon a winch ó staras agus ó gulhan cin na Gaeilge. Rinnew a bhagan den Gaeilge go nairach agus de ceart a teanga go minic sa darlanse, rud nach bhfuil cór nó ceart ar chorbé. I gan goach an tosí mar sin, fetar dúsa go gaifar plánail den achgéalú anis mar cod den córa da a aontu. Agus a bheith plé leis an Gaeilge go normalta agus go chothram mar cod de discúrsa cearta an duine. Bheith discúrsa céarna a gceist le cabbí minlach eile den phobal chomáid. Bíú sé buinse le cinne, le mí commas, le gréisach nó cabbí rud. Is séarnaí arana ha muid a le agus muid rugga in sa tíir seo agus mar sin cearta agus cosins uing. Tá factasiacht cóananas a lé na Gaeilge ó thuaí buinseach go sonrach le discursa atá bunaithe ar chuirsaí cearta. Tosaí an aon léú ceart bunaithe ar hanga leis an aitheantas nach míon aon chléanú polótil a gcéast le teanga ar bé. Ba cór go méo sé seo mar húsfuinse de aon bhasanú ar cas na teanga i gotisianta agus ar cas na Gaeilge in éire nua go háirithe. Curú a gimniú dúin ar na málamh sa document cimseach seo a dilsí conrú na Gaeilge bunaithe ar cearta in san Gaeilgeas agus mai iad. Gur a bé dúlgas de héidse héan a dúirt go sillir. The Irish language, thank God, is neither Protestant nor Catholic. It is neither a unionist nor a separatist. Leis an dearcú sin ar an tín rihan sé lom a réist, cén dothar nó contarch de ginnear bé a dhéanad sé go méo an Gaeilge mar fíoracht an aon éire nua a maihan seo. Is teanga é, níl aon wagart nimhúil an ar chorbé. Ar an áhar sin is léirú special do maid an bhlathú a hagan as co-ibrú tras phobal bunaithe ar gulhan cin na Gaeilge a bhhain a tá an in sa Scinos Centre in ar Herval farstin a leiche seo. Fríd an sáiríocht atá deanta ag an East Belfast Mission, chuirtar déisina iontacha ar fáil de ólamrí na teanga ag level a phobal fríd rangan na Gaeilge agus imeachtaí Gaeilge gach seachtain. Tagan na cétaí fríd na Dorsaí. An tionscanú turas a bunaíú ar bhóthar bháile na hádas a bhléon gabhíle a cahardeig ag fólam le céile a churann siad ar an rud. Agus is é an mission atá ag an agriacht spreagháil seo na to connect Protestant communities to their own history with the Irish language. Ní gadú sa ceacht ó híomh star na Gaeilge sa chathair seo a thabhairt a ginnear bé an seo an acht. Amachchas sin das an tim in san cantar in san Idithes lán Gaeilge, pláistí sonna ag fólam le céile mar mantra an sin agus é mar spric ag an phobal go méo Idithes másca trí bhan na Gaeilge ar fáil in san ól cantar. Mai iad, mollam hon na spéire an obair mhórhaid, gnéirí lá amach an seo agus nach ionteach a léid de éis a bheith mar chrílar an córa de éire nua. Couple of points eile éilis go gasta. Bhéin héan go páirsanta ag molú go láidir fásta mar cod de caint ar héicí na Héireann, nach go bhhain go méo an Gaeilge, ceis na Gaeilge agus ceart de teanga lug amach go chothram agus go láidir ach go méo sé seo a le deanta go lárnach Forbathe agus socrathe harama, tíomh le ceiste na móra eile, go mbeadh an Gaeilge sitse I lár an éanaí, a grí lár an córa ón tús foinse agus hán mar bolta moide ag an dearú. Cinniú na daoine sa seomra seo an Gaeilge ar an chláir agus cearta teanga ar an tabla a riama. Níl sé de cearta giniúr bí ar deanga dúthais a chur ar an bhéráda gan ligans de céis na Gaeilge a bheith I lár an éanaí. Ní ra meisteach go dóin sa scéal fan ard ceanara politúla a hí a stúdio telefíse le déanaí ag méo go méid sé mai go leor tíseach nó tánaiste na tíra seo a anú nó go méid sé mai go leor cúlú siar ó status ethical na Gaeilge in sa tír. Tá meise agus na míltí eile ó thuaí agus ó dheas an mhuiú go mbeadh tús áite tugad ar teanga dúthasa. Is féidir linn an Gaeilge scríofa a réanú siar go dtí an tríú haois agus bhí si á lóirt a bhád ribh sin, cé mé nó cé hé a bheith caiú a nuas ar sin. Gur míle mai agah a cáirte.
Yes, thank you. The last contribution from yourself, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to speak today. I don't know what I've done to deserve to be in last to speak, or more importantly, what you've done to have to hear me talking at this stage. Sovereignty for me is not a flag on a pole. It is a roof over your head and food on the table. Housing is the foundation stone for society. The quality of home that somebody lives in has an impact on their physical and mental well-being. We must look after the most vulnerable and help them to live as independently as possible for as long as possible in their own homes. We want to see everyone have access to a good quality home, and New Ireland must have a strong focus on this. The best way to achieve this is through a mixed tenure approach where social, affordable and private housing is provided together. This helps to create sustainable communities. We need to take an all-Ireland approach to this, which means identifying surplus public sector land across government departments, public agencies and local councils, using this land where it is suitable and in areas of high need to build more housing. There should be specific targets set for all government departments across Ireland to ensure that they deliver this in a joined-up manner. The post-pandemic world gives us all an opportunity to live and work across this beautiful island in a way which was not possible beforehand. We need to ensure that we provide high-speed broadband so that we can harness this potential, reinvigorate our towns and villages, and reduce carbon emissions from people having to commute into our urban centres. Remote working should be welcomed and encouraged across the private and public sectors. Here are two practical examples of how partition is damaging our ability to provide housing. The housing regulator in the south does not allow out-of-state control. This means northern housing associations cannot leverage their assets to help fund and build housing in the south. It means that northern housing associations cannot use their expertise in terms of staff or board members on approved housing bodies in the south in a truly joined-up way. Housing needs to be considered a key part of Ireland's infrastructure, and all of this should be done on an all-Ireland basis. You do not need to be an economist to know that one thing is cheaper and more efficient than two of something. Too often there's duplication because of partition. Prior to Brexit coming into effect, northern housing associations were able to access low-cost loans through the European Investment Bank. In one example, they were able to draw down €200 million for solar panels, which was put in social housing, to help address the climate crisis and provide cheap and safe energy for their tenants. The EIB is no longer processing applications from Northern Ireland for this. And the supposed UK Investment Bank is not providing funding either. Irish unity will enable us to reverse these two retrograde steps. Building new housing provides an economic multiplier effect for the wider economy, so by focusing on this, we are providing homes and jobs. Attracting investment is a good thing, but it only works if we have enough good quality housing for those who want to come and live here. We also want to ensure that our young people are able to get access to good quality homes and that they do not feel forced to leave Ireland to seek opportunities elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. A New Ireland for everyone. Another wonderfully rich panel.
I suppose in the last 20 years since the Good Friday Agreement, there's two issues that have always been sort of prevalent and reoccurring, and it's parades and flags, I guess. And so what I sort of would like to understand, there was a message or a question on the website last night that asked quite rightly what our, how we feel our own rights will be protected in the United Ireland. And as an Irishman, I guess, I wonder how far that rifle olive branch should extend in terms of would I still be sort of, and many others, subjected to an annual display of hatred towards my own culture. And just on closing, I'd ask the Commission to think. There's been suggestions about changing the flag of Ireland to be more inclusive. Cut off. To be more inclusive, and I just would sort of think now, and especially in the week of unity, would be the best time more than ever to actually appreciate the meaning of the flag and what the white represents between the both. I think that flag says a lot for all people and can actually represent both communities and doesn't need changed at all. I just ask people to reflect on that going forward.
Thank you. Over here, thank you.
Hello, I have 3 very brief points. The first one is that I have no Irish, and I applaud your integrity, Mairead, for delivering your speech in Irish. As an Irish language activist and principal of what I think is an Irish school, it sounded lovely to my ears, and I'd like to thank you for giving us a summary. So my question is, when this goes onto YouTube, would it be possible to put a link below that so that I can read what Mairead said, the whole story? Because I want to know what you think and what you said. My second thing is to Professor John Barry. I want to thank you for that amazing and very bleak metaphor on the cancer burger car crash thing. You have put into words something that I've been trying to think about for about 10 years. And you put it into that metaphor, which I'm never going to be able to forget. Also, I'm never going to be able to forget your shirt. I think it's fantastic. My name is Rachel, and I'm a teacher. And I didn't have a Catholic friend until I was 36. I made that friend when we were teaching in an integrated school together. So my contribution is just to make sure that someone has said that partition is always going to exist on our island as long as we continue to segregate our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Mairead's talk will be subtitled on YouTube, I've just learned. Before we draw the evening to a close, I just want to keep a space open for anyone who has anything to say. You've been a great audience. You've been doing, I can feel it in the room, attentive listening to all of our panellists. And I'd like to now bring the evening to a close. It's been an excellent meeting. I think we've had some very insightful and at times personal testimony provided by people tonight, both in the panel and in the room. Tonight's gathering shows that people of Belfast want to have this conversation. A persistent theme throughout tonight's meeting is the clear need to prepare and plan for the future. Some have suggested a citizens' assembly as a responsible way of doing this. And I'm curious myself as to the level of support for that in the room tonight. So could I ask you for a quick show of hands in response to this question? I haven't asked the question yet. But that's eagerness for you. Give it vim, please. So here's the question, and anyone who didn't put their hand up, here's your chance. Who thinks that the Southern Government should begin the planning process by convening an all-island citizens' assembly? I'm independent, but I'm allowed to vote on this occasion. That's a wonderful result. We'll have to report that. I think there's a clear and strong message going out from the room tonight. The Belfast People's Assembly has had its say. Now we need to move into the planning and preparation phase in the new Ireland. But before we say our goodbyes, I'd like to thank the team working for the Commission for their tireless efforts to make this a success. Organising an event like this takes courage, takes commitment and confidence. That confidence was well placed tonight. The people of Belfast have started to have their say. The conversation continues. Go raibh míle maith agat. Let's make history.